Welcome to More Than a Muse Podcast, a podcast all about women and the arts, hosted by Stauney and Sadie. Join us as we explore what it's like being a female artist, examine modern-day problems, and educate ourselves and others on important and forgotten female artists of the past.
Hi, and welcome to More Than a Muse Podcast.
Hi.
I'm Stauney.
And I'm Sadie.
And we're just going to introduce ourselves today so you can get to know a little bit more about us and why we're doing this podcast in the first place and how we even know each other and everything else.
Like I said, my name is Sadie. So I'm a singer and a songwriter. I've recently just graduated from Utah Valley University with my degree in commercial music. Yes, I did get a music degree. Yes, I know that's not always people's path in the music world, but it was my path and I loved it. I just graduated from there. Now I'm trying to figure out what the heck to do with my life now. And I guess the answer is this podcast. Let's think. What else should I mention?
How did you know you wanted to be a singer-songwriter?
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always been writing songs and singing, like, since I was a kid. Like, I was definitely, like, the cousin who would be like, all right, family reunions, we are now going to turn this into a full-length production and perform for the adults with this original song I wrote about Minnie Mouse. So come on now. Like, that was definitely me as a child. And like, I always liked telling stories, and like when I was little, I wanted to be an author. So I think but I also love to sing. So it just like naturally turned into me writing songs. I think I started my first songwriting notebook when I was in like 4th grade. And then now I have a lot of songwriting notebooks and been doing this for a while. So yeah, it's like literally just like I said, I was that annoying kid. I was that annoying cousin that was like, hi, you want to have fun? No, it's rehearsal time.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, that's true. But like the younger boys would always be like, can't we just play? And I'd be like, no, we are not living up to our artistic potential if we're playing at the family party.
That's so funny, turning everything into a project.
Of course.
I love it. So one question I think probably everyone will want to know is like, why did you decide to go to school?
I feel like the reason why is like growing up, I guess I just like always wanted a college degree, and like honestly that was such a emphasis in my home, like with my parents, you know, it was like go to college, get a degree. And so when it came to like graduating high school, it was like, you know, if I'm gonna spend 4 years of my life investing, you know, money and time into something, I might as well be studying something that I love and that I can gain from. And so I found a program that was not classical music, because that's what a lot of college programs are, but I found one that I thought would be awesome, and it was. And so, you know, like I said, I think originally it started just by like the default of I have to go to school and get a degree, but then it turned into, well, might as well get a music degree because that's what I want to do, so let's learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
And also too, like, I'm a very natural student, admittedly. I thrive in a school culture. And I love assignments. Like, give me something to do and I will do it. And I will do it great. So it just made sense. And I liked it. It was awesome. So.
No, I relate to that a lot too for like natural student. I feel that. But yeah, I think one thing that's cool with you though is like seeing what's happened, because obviously there was like a lot of people just in like our community high school that were all interested in music, but yours has continued, and like you're still doing it, and you know how to do it like completely on your own, and you like don't need anything else. And whereas a lot of other people, I feel like, who went the other route, it kind of tapered off and they're not really doing that anymore. So I feel like it like helped you like continue your passion and like know how to like make it work for you, instead of it just like dying off
Yeah, it's almost like forced me to like try and make something of it, because it's like, crap, I've spent these last it was ended up being 5 years and all this money investing into being better. But then it was cool too, because being in this program, like, it showed me all these different elements of music that I wouldn't have learned on my own, probably. Like, I wouldn't have known where to approach it, or I just really wouldn't have had the chance to. And I feel like it turned me just into a more sophisticated musician.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I went from being like the 17-year-old girl who like wrote whiny songs on my guitar about my boyfriend or my ex-boyfriend. And then, but now I'm like, oh, hey, I'm a real musician and I know how to write a song. And like, so if anything, like, if that's all I got from it, like, I feel like that's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's valuable.
And then recently what I've been up to is just like, well, I've always been like, I've like released a couple songs on like Spotify and like iTunes and everything like that. It hasn't done much, but this is just the beginning. I'm also like working on like writing an online songwriting course, which, is just supposed to be to teach beginning songwriters how to start this and how to approach songwriting. So besides the always writing and recording music, the online course right now is like that's my baby that we are nurturing currently.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so what about you? I feel like that's plenty of me.
Well, I am Stauney, and I am currently in the Bachelor of Fine Arts program at Utah Valley University for their graphic design degree. I'm in my last year, so I've got 2 semesters left. I'm pumping it out. I'm so excited to be done, but it's been wonderful. I guess like how I became a graphic designer is actually from high school. I took like a digital media class my sophomore year, and I was the only girl in the class. I remember that. So that was weird. And then we learned like the Adobe programs, like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and I think one other or something. And like the minute I figured out Illustrator, I was like hooked. It was like something where I was like, oh my gosh, like you can create art like this and this is how it works. And it like made more sense to me than anything ever had, because I always loved art. I went to like an arts integrated charter school. Like I was in theater, I took piano, but like I always felt like I wasn't like a good enough like visual artist per se, because I could never make anything look as realistic as everyone always wanted it to. And so even though I loved it, I didn't really want to spend my whole life painting. But graphic design was something where I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. This like fits in perfectly with what I like. I feel like I can create this way. And I was already kind of obsessed with like advertisements and fonts and everything else. So it worked out perfectly. But yeah, I've been doing it kind of ever since then. Obviously on a smaller scale than now, but that's kind of how that happened.
What about like, okay, how about projects are you currently involved in? Like, what's like your coolest projects that you have been a part of?
Oh my gosh, I have a lot going on. I'm the graphic designer for a nonprofit called Women's Ally, ALI. Everyone should check that out because it's awesome. They are helping women within the arts to obtain like leadership skills. And so I do all the graphic design for them. And some of the fun things have been like event branding, which I'd never done before, where it's like an entire event. And I'm doing like all the stuff for it, like the signage, the programs, everything. So that's been fun. And then I also am interning right now for the UVU Center for Social Impact. So I'm working on a lot of the same thing, kind of event marketing for them. I think I've found something I like. And then other than that, I freelance a little bit on the side when I find things that I love. I've done your cover art for all of your songs and stuff, and even some merch.
I know. I was just going to say that. Like, worlds collide. She's done all the graphics for all the music I've released.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
Probably will for the rest of my life, so.
No, I'm glad. I love it because that's really fun, and it's fun to like listen to a song and then like help you bring something to life. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, other than that, it's just kind of like whatever comes up that I'm passionate in, I'll take it. And yeah, like this.
So we met in high school, sophomore year. I realized when you said theater, I realized that we first met in Seussical, the musical.
You're right, we did.
Yes.
I was trying to think of like the exact moment that we technically met. Because, like, you were in my biology class, too. But you sat at the front, and I sat at the back. So I don't think we ever talked.
No.
But I, like, knew who you were.
And I don't feel like we became friends in Seussical.
No.
But it was just like, oh, yeah, that's Stauney girl.
Yeah. I don't know exactly. Probably it would be junior year when it, like, cemented. And it was, like, we did that Shakespeare, like, little skit together.
Yeah, no, it was the Shakespeare Festival.
Yes,
our junior year,
and that was theater. So
yes,
we were in like I don't even remember what it was called, advanced theater or something like that. Whatever it was.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. But we went to the Shakespeare Festival in Cedar City, and for our little performance thing that we had, we weren't performing for that though. We did that before. But we were in like a scene together, and then then we ended up being like roommates on the trip with Allison. Yeah, and then
that's when we became friends.
Yeah, and we bonded.
I like forgot about all of that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
You said theater, and like a whole like box of locked memories in my head just like opened of like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's actually funny because you're one of the people in my life that I feel like we had a very like gradual but very like easy friendship where it was just kind of like we slowly just started like being around each other more and more and more until eventually we're like, oh yeah, like she's one of my best friends.
No, like literally it's like look around, it's like, wait, how did we get here? Because suddenly this person knows everything about my life and I don't know how that happened.
Oh my gosh, so good though.
It's a good thing. Yes.
Oh, and to like put this whole thing into context, like Sadie and I have always talked about like feminism and the arts constantly. Like always. I feel like pretty much every conversation we've ever had has included some aspect of that.
Yeah. Even like when I was 15, 16 and like wouldn't have dared call myself a feminist, I was still like, yeah, but like this thing in pop culture and women, it's not right. It's not fair. I didn't know that I was a feminist, but I was.
Yeah. No.
That's when that word was still a dirty word.
Yeah, it was for a while, and it was super weird. But yeah, that's kind of the little fun thing behind it. I don't know, like, really what else. When we graduated, I went on a mission, and Sadie went to college.
Yeah, I went straight to UVU.
Yeah, so, but you, like, wrote me my entire mission, too.
I know. Stauney was, like, my missionary that I wrote to.
It was cute, yeah. And then, I feel like we've stayed friends, but it's been more of, like, a, hey, just because we're both like really busy and
I know, but then it's also like when we reconnect, it's like, all right, so this thing in women, like,
yeah,
like it's like you said, it's like no matter what happens, it's like any conversation will be like, okay, so yeah, and this,
yes, exactly,
women in the arts.
That is so true. And then, so, like, I came up with the idea for this podcast from, like, my art history classes. So I'm actually getting, like, an art history minor, which is funny because, like, graphic design, I feel like people don't think we take that many art history classes. We take all of them. But I was sitting in class, and I started to realize that women weren't being brought up, like, hardly ever. there was hardly any women in it. And I was like, wait, like, where are the women? And then the teacher brought up, I'm going to say her name wrong, Artemisia Gentileschi, I think. And he started telling her story, and a lot of her story is about, like, how hard it is to be a female in the arts at that time. And finally, I was just like, why have I never heard her name? Like, I went to an arts integrated school. I read art history books for fun when I was little. Like, I love this stuff. How come I've never heard of her? Like, where is she? Why is it taken this long for her to come up? And then it made me realize that there's probably millions more that I've never heard of, that have never been mentioned. And so I started kind of thinking of, like, how I could use that idea to come up with a project. And originally it was going to be like a blog or like a website or something. And then it hit me and I was like, no, I need to like talk about it. And so I was like, I need a podcast. And then immediately Sadie came to mind, because I just knew like she'd be the person that could help me bring this to life. And like I have a lot of visual arts background and she has a lot of like music background. And then we both have done theater. And so I just felt like it was this perfect overlap of everything. And plus, with every conversation we'd ever had, I just knew that you'd be someone that I could talk to about this. And, like, you wouldn't be like, okay, like, shut up now. You'd be like, yes, I agree. So.
No, I remember, like, when you first messaged me, it was, like, midnight or like after midnight. I was like laying in my bed, and then I just like got this text of like, I have this really good idea, and I was like, haven't heard from Stauney in a while, okay. And then I get this huge long text about like, you told me that story, and then you pretty much said exactly what you just said, but in a very long text. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then I turned to Jordan, who is my husband, for context. And I told him, and he's like, well, that's just like your brand. And I'm like, I know, this is literally what I love. So I was on board from the very beginning. So.
But I'm excited to be doing this finally, and like to bring it to life, and happy about like, I don't know, what we've already talked about. I feel like this is going to be really cool. So
like as far as like what we want to do with this podcast here, like obviously it's going to be a lot of highlighting women artists that we admire that maybe history hasn't remembered, whether that's on purpose or not, or, you know, just like those lost women in history. So that'll be part of it, but also just like women and the arts in general.
Yes, it's definitely like there is an aspect to this that is like art, music, history, but we want to make sure that it's like current for everyone too, because I know there's going to be things that come up that we want to talk about, and we can't do that if it's just like a historical podcast. So there's definitely going to be like current topics about like being a woman in the arts and what's going on in the arts, and then also educational in like helping you learn about people that you've never heard of or maybe like vaguely heard of. And that's it. Yeah. Cool. So the name is More Than a Muse, and kind of the reasons behind that is because all throughout history, women have been viewed as like the muses of men. Statistically, I think if you look at it, there's more nudes of women in any art museum than actual paintings created by women, which is really sad. Just looking at it from that aspect. And then even in music, I feel like all the popular songs are usually about women.
There's like statistics of like, you know, the top like most songs, even if it's like sung by a woman, it's maybe not written by a woman, or like as far as like the songwriting and the producing of the music, it's very male dominated.
Yes. So even though the arts are like, I think, associated a lot with females, 80% of art students are female. But yet when it comes to like the working field, I think only 40% are. So there's like a drop off that's obviously happening where they're like, oh, it's fine for you to be an art student. But then when it gets to like the professional level of it, that sexism is still there. And especially with like leadership positions, like you mentioned, like there's hardly any gallery or studio owners that are women. Same with like producers. I know a ballerina who told me that she's never had a female art director when like literally all of the ballerinas are female. So it like
women.
there's this weird ratio happening where like something is going on where women are still being discriminated against in the arts, even though people don't want to assume that that's happening, because when you look at the arts you see a lot of women.
I remember like the very first thing that, you know, obviously we had to think of was, okay, so what is even like, what are we calling it? And I just love the concept of, because I remember you like mentioned, like, I feel like something with the muses could be cool, but like, I don't know. I love that concept of it's like, because like you said, like with history, it's like everyone associates the word muse with like, oh, she's my muse, this and this, which is like, that's great. Like, I could be a man's muse. I'd be fine with that. But also it's like, but I'm more than just like your little inspiration. Like, yes. I'm also a creator.
Yeah, I feel like summing up women as just a muse is kind of a very like sit still and look pretty kind of concept, where it's like, absolutely, just sit there and be beautiful and inspire me, but like don't do anything. And that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with like inspiring people. Like, that's great. But at the same time, like, you can do so much more than that, and you are so much more than that. And like, there's not a single female out there that needs to feel like their only purpose in life is to inspire a man to create something. Like, come on, we can do better than that. So that's kind of where it comes from. And even just like, if we're going to go clear back to like the idea even of the muses, they are like the goddesses of art and creation. And back in the day, like, people used to have to like thank the muses and like dedicate everything that they did to them, because they literally didn't think that they could create or do anything without the inspiration. And it was seen as more of like a guiding hand, kind of like an active participant in the creation, and not just like a something to look at as like a reference for your great work. So
like the muses in of themselves is like an example of like women in the arts either being rewritten or and
it's crazy because like they were credited for like inventing everything that we have in the arts, and now they've been summed up as just like a ghost that comes and whispers things in your ear at night when you need to be inspired. So yeah, that's kind of behind the name, and I feel like it sums up what we're kind of trying to do essentially, is just like help women to see themselves as more than just inspiration, but also to be able to see themselves as like the masters of the greatest works and worthy of like being in the top museums and like the top record labels and everything else.
I agree. So I guess that's it for now. I feel like that just sums up who we are, why we're doing this. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun things that we're going to talk about.
We do. We have like a long list, and it's getting longer. So I don't think we're going to end anytime soon. Like, we're not going to run out of content.
Definitely not. Okay, so a quick shout out to our Instagram. If you want to follow us, it's just morethanamuse.podcast. We're on Instagram right now, and Stauney is awesome because she's I love our branding. I'm just gonna like pat her. I'm not patting myself on the back because I didn't do anything, so I get to just pat her on the back for that.
Thank
but
you.
Also like you're welcome. But I like it too because, you know, beyond just what we talk about here on the podcast, like also on the Instagram, there's also going to be additional content. So if you're interested in women and in the arts, and if you're passionate about that too, you can also follow that to get additional just information and content about that.
Definitely. And we want to involve all of you that are listening in future episodes for sure. So we're definitely going to ask if there's anything that we should cover, especially if like maybe you're a dancer or like an opera singer or something and you have people from history that you want us to talk about, because obviously we don't know as much about a lot of those other industries. We're going to try, but we don't know everything.
True. Yes.
So you can definitely recommend people to us or topics that you want covered. And then I think eventually we also want to have interviews with people about their different experiences within the arts. So if that would be something you're interested in, we'd love to know.
We'd love to talk to you.
Of course. Yeah. So follow the Instagram, keep in touch with us. And I'm just really excited. Oh, but also I need to shout out Sadie for, she's literally handling all of the sound of this too. So that's why we're the perfect duo.
Yeah, we're a match made in podcast heaven.
For real though.
Stauney can do all the branding and make it look pretty, because my brain doesn't even like that at all. I can't do that kind of stuff. But I can record the audio.
You make it sound pretty. Yeah.
True.
So that's the two sides of it, and it works out great.
Yep. Exactly. Okay, cool. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
I love that you're here. We'll see you next week.
Bye.